Hey guys! Nice to see you, nice. So just before we do a bit of silent sitting, I just want to introduce the live stream. So if this is your first time on live stream, the way that you ask me questions is through Skype, not through the YouTube chat. Sometimes I look at it, sometimes I don't, but I do look at Skype. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. If you want to call in and ask a question, please make sure that you have a headset with a built-in microphone. Otherwise it echoes. And you can also write a question as well, as you like. If you want to come to one of my events, I shall tell you my next event. I think it's India. Let's have a look. Yeah. You've completed that now, the retreat in Spain. So retreat interior of Annamalai, the 13th to the 20th of January. Open talks in India, the 6th to the 12th of January, the 24th to the 30th of January, and the 2nd to the 8th of February. And that's in Rishikesh, Goa, and Tiruvannamalai. You can find all the information on my website, which is in the box below, or there's an eye that you can click on. And I do these talks every Sunday and Wednesday, except when I'm traveling. So please always check my website to see if the talk is happening on the day you want to watch it. And there's other links in the box below. You can also book a one-to-one session with me, and there's also videos or a book that you can purchase as well. The book is from 2012, 13, I think. So I think it's time for a new book. Yeah, it was really beautiful. It's a lot more about just the non-duality side. When I first started speaking, I just really spoke about non-duality, and then as I worked with people more and more, I realized that I had to encompass working with the people to an extent, or to the person to an extent. So who is it that speaks now? Who? When a dog barks, who is it that's barking? We say in the human world it's the dog that barked. Like the dog is barking. That's the way that we name things. That's the way that we put words to action. The dog barked. The dog is barking. But who actually is creating the impulse in the dog to bark? Who's actually instructing that action? So who's at the source of that action? So we've also been taught in our society that there is a soul inside the body. Now that's not the sole of someone's foot. We don't have someone's foot inside our body. I know English is very confusing and most of you assume that I meant a foot, but that's not what our society means. Our society means soul as in some sort of ethereal spirit that lives inside the body and goes on after the body. And when the body dies, that spirit or soul will go into heaven and knock on the gates and ask God if that soul has been good enough to get into heaven. And God looks through a big book of actions. It goes through it. It's like and then comes to the conclusion whether that soul goes to heaven or hell. And if it goes to hell, then the soul is stuck there for eternity. If it goes to heaven, it's there for eternity. And that's what we've been taught in our society. Very logical, makes a lot of sense. Just to clarify again, when I speak about soul, I'm not talking about a foot. I'm talking about this ethereal spirit. So we got taught that in our society. And so we believe when the dog barks, that inside the dog there is a soul making that action happen. So there is a soul dog, a spirit dog inside the dog going, and that soul has free will and is independent from everything else and walks around through its own choice. And that's what we think of the humans as well. We think of that of every moving object. We don't think of that trees have souls unless you're a pagan or grass has soul. It tends to only be the animals which move fast enough for us to see, or what we define as animals. So non-duality has a different perspective. Non-duality doesn't really buy into the idea of soul or spirit. It suggests the idea that every action that happens, everything that appears is God or life or the universe's will and not an individual entity's will. Funny enough, science begins to back that up as well. Science begins to say that we don't end at the edge of our body. Nothing actually begins and ends. That everything is made up of atoms, and it's the lining up and the different movement of the atoms that creates all this. And inside the atoms, the smaller particles, quarks and protons and neurons, and then inside of that there is a mystery. Inside of that they can't find anything. But science also indicates that there isn't something that begins and ends inside this body. They've never found a soul, they've never found a separate individual. In fact, a lot of science says that individuality is an illusion created by the brain. But most humans believe in this thing called soul, spirit that goes to heaven after death, that there's something in there that's separate and creating it. And that's what's propagated by most religions, Christianity, the big ones, Christianity and Islam and Judaism, all traditionally teach about this soul. But if you go deeper into it, they begin to debunk this idea of soul. It's just the more popular, common idea. So a scientist would look at the dog and say that it's a lot of it's energy making the dog bark. It's everything that's lined up in a particular way that's affected by everything else that's creating the dog to bark. And that's also what non-duality would say as well. However, this is very abstract to a lot of people. So the science would imply, and non-duality imply, there isn't actually free will of a separate entity inside the dog. The dog is barking because it's a mechanism that's appearing, and the creation of that comes from everything, the whole entire universe. So the dog barking is formed from the Big Bang, from the dinosaurs, from everything that's ever happened. There is particles that's inside that dog creating, in that particular moment, a particular reaction, which is and that it's not an individual entity doing it. And that's the same with humans. So you might think that you're somebody, a separate entity sitting inside your body, listening to me speak, but that is simply what you think. It's a very, very strong illusion that the humans are in. The dog actually doesn't think that she's an individual inside the body howling, and I'll tell you why, which is very obvious, but a lot of people will argue with this. The dog doesn't think. If the dog doesn't have language, it cannot think. I remember saying this to a close relative. I since learned that you never talk about this stuff with close relatives. You tend to just talk about it with people that are interested. And I remember just saying to this relative, but how could the dog do that? The dog doesn't think. They're like, of course the dog thinks. How would it do anything? I think the dog can have limited imagination, but it can't think, because what would it think in? Your thinking is predominantly in words with images. But imagine if you just had solely images. So the dog had to picture everything that happened, like it pictures where the bone is, which is fair enough, but how would it know? So if it did everything in pictures and had a strong imaginary world, which I don't think it does, but it obviously has some form of imagining. But even if it does do that, how does it think I am somebody inside this body? How does it know that? Images won't tell it that. It doesn't recognize itself when it looks in the mirror. It doesn't think, oh, that's me. How would it know or think that it's me? You see, the human has this amazing ability to think, and then it gets lost in thinking and thinks, yes, I am somebody that is listening to Lisa talk, but it's only what you think. What is your actual experience? And your actual experience is that there is not a thing listening to Lisa. There is simply listening and speaking happening for no one. That's your actual experience. That's like the truest part that you can get to. Everything else is thoughts that come and go, but your actual experience is that you're not listening to me. The you that you think yourself to be is something that comes and goes, and it's not actually you. Who you are is everything, which is nothing. You're not even consciousness experiencing everything, because consciousness isn't separate from everything. Everything is self-conscious. It's an illusion that you're looking from a particular angle. It feels like it because you're having a human experience, but actually when you really, 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 really relax as that separate entity, you begin to see that there isn't a position of looking, there is simply everything experiencing itself. Isn't that fantastic? Some might agree, and some might be like, yeah, so what does that give me? All right then, so I buy that, Lisa. It seems like you have some truth, but you know, at the end of the day, what does that give me? Nothing. It gives you jack shit, except it is absolute freedom. But it doesn't give you anything because you don't exist. And who you are, that thing you think you're going to get, isn't a thing, it's everything. So you could say you can't get anything. And this is absolute freedom. Nothing in life will ever work out. It will work out for a period, but it won't ever be permanent. So you'll get things, you'll lose things, you'll get things, you'll lose things, you'll stick flags here, and then you'll lose those flags, then you'll forget about the flags, then you'll find them again in the basement and be like, oh, there's a flag. Oh, we'll stick it here. And it all comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes. But it won't actually work out. Your imagination, your thought process is always believing that one day you're going to arrive at a place and things are going to work out, that people are going to stop dying, that there's going to be peace on earth, that we're going to invent eternal life, that there's never going to be blood, there's never going to be bacteria or anything gross, that everybody will stop going to the toilet and go for a poo, and weeing will not exist either, and sex will be a very clean thing. You can have sex with everybody and there'll be no STDs, or you can just have sex with one person and that one person will always be trustworthy and do exactly what you say. But it's unlikely that that's going to be the way it is, because everything always changes. It changes. You know, it changes. But isn't it fantastic? On the human level, on the thought level, none of us know why we're alive. We simply are experiencing this. And when you remember who you are, that aliveness is just ecstatic to be. Who you are, God, is not in rejection of itself. It's totally intimate with itself. It's only the person that rejects and likes. And when you're totally identified with that, then life is heaven and hell. Mostly hell for a lot of people, especially as they get past 40 and when their parents begin to die. And that generation begins to die and they begin to become the old one, and they've got like 5 kids and bills. I like to sing a song which explains the nature of the universe. It's not about Bajang, but you could put it in the category of Bajangs, but just English Bajangs. But we wouldn't call it Bajangs because it's in English, so we would just call it a song. So I have a repetitive song that I like to sing, and I think it's very profound. And if you'd like to join me in this prayer, then I'm sure it will get you enlightened. It goes a little like this. I got a little ee-ee, I got a little ooh. I got a little ee-ee, I got a little ooh. And basically what it means is I've got a little ee-ee, I got a little ooh. And that means nothing. It's absolutely pointless, just like the nature of life. I got a little ee-ee, I got a little ooh. I got a little ee-ee, I got a little ooh. Khaleesi particularly likes dancing to it. She tends to wiggle her little bottom. Ee-ee! She won't come. She's sat in the garden. So let's see if there's any questions. So if you want to ask any questions, just send it to Lisa Cairns 12, and that's Skype. Hi, Chris. So you can write it or you can send it as a message. No, sorry. You can write it and send it as a message, or you can call in, whatever you like. Hi, Lisa. I like the analogy of electricity. Consider there isn't a me electricity or a you electricity or a John Doe electricity. There is only one electricity. There are light bulbs, vehicles, which allow electricity to manifest light, but we also know that when a bulb dies, electricity is still there. It's always there, everywhere, infinitely, always present, can't see it, not an object, and is unchanged by circumstances. The misunderstanding begins with when a light bulb comes to believe that it does not need electricity to generate light and can in fact generate its own and must do to survive. It doesn't, only needs to relax and be the light that it always is. That's very nice, Chris Watts. And your application for becoming a teacher is certified. Hi, Aleski. Would you still like to talk? Hi, Thomas. Hey, Lisa. So lovely to have you back on the tube. Yes, I am in a tube. How I'd love to go to the live event in India. Yeah, nice. I think it's nearly sold out now. Not the talks, you can go to the talks, but the retreat. Hello from Ireland. Hi, Catherine. Nice to meet you on here. You're very welcome. Hi, Carol Hammer. Nice to see you, Carola. It's nice that you've got your picture on there because I recognized you. It's sometimes hard for me to put all the names with faces. Hi, Julio. Audio is great. Yes, Andreas had a... Oh. Sorry. Hey, Julia. Nice to see you, Julia. I still didn't listen to your music. I've got to do it. I was away on retreat and couldn't download it. So now I will download it. Thank you so much for sharing it, Julia. Dear Lisa, nice to see you again. Nice to see you, Marcus. Hope you had a successful retreat. It was very successful. Everybody, the whole retreat became enlightened. I'd like to ask you for some advice. Sometimes when I interact with people, my body feels very tight and contracted, especially my head. I often get lost in negativity. I think it could be helpful if I was more aware of my thought processes, because then it could be easier for me to not buy into the negativity all the time. Any idea what to do in these situations? Well, lots of ideas, Marcus. Let me see if I can articulate them. They might all come out at once and it would just be like, but hopefully they'll come out one at a time. So, Marcus. Yes, Marcus. Basically, the reason that you're becoming tight is because you're not expressing yourself and being honest. You are living a lie, Marcus. When this area and this area is tight, it generally means that you're not expressing what you feel and think. And all of us do it. I do it as well. Sometimes I just feel like I can't express it because it's too hurtful normally to the other person. But I always find it's better to express it. But it is sometimes difficult. And basically, the cure to it is just being yourself. Whatever you think and feel, being yourself and completely letting go into that and letting God act, because God is yourself. So it's like relaxing and letting it happen, becoming the puppet that you are, and letting go of the tight controls. You're like, they must like me, they must love me. And normally they like you if you're just yourself, because it's energetically very refreshing to be around someone that's their self. So that is the diagnosis, Mark. And the cure is listen to non-duality and just pay attention, like you said, as you are very wise, to the thoughts that are happening. And just see if you can relax into just letting yourself be more, like letting it come up. So if you feel like you're around someone, you feel like going, blah, 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 just do it. Or if you feel like going, wah! Or you feel like saying, I am not enjoying this conversation, I am going to move away. Hi, Christopher. Hey, Lisa. What can I do if my body still reacts with fear and panic, etc., to a situation that is no longer dangerous? Well, that's part of being human, and just get used to it. Suck it up. It's part of being human. Fear is part of our feelings. I get afraid every time, I see. I was trying to think of something funny then, but it passed. The moment passed. I couldn't think. I was going to say a bin, but that was really not funny. So when you have fear and panic, it's just an acceptance that it's there. The more you resist it, the worse it will come, the worse it will become. It's just totally accepting the experience, and everybody gets it. The worst thing about the spiritual search is that you get lots of very narcissistic characters that are teachers, and they teach you that in order to become enlightened, you have to be some perfect God, still figure that never has any emotions and is speaking like a robot and is like this and never reacts to anything. And if somebody were to scream at them, they just go, namaste, namaste. And this is really bullshit. And this keeps you really tied up. You have to be human, fully human, 100% human. And part of being human is having fear. And the reason I know that is because I'm very intelligent. Or the other reason is because I'm a mammal. And when I study mammals, I like to do David Attenborough and go and sit and watch animals. All mammals have fear. It's part of what we are. We have fear. We're meant to have fear. We're meant to fear certain things. We're meant to fear the edge of the cliff. We're meant to fear the fire or big bad men, the big bad wolf. But not wolves are wonderful. But when there's things that you're meant to be afraid of. Sorry, just in case somebody thought that I was being really derogative towards wolf dens, I'll just explain what I meant when I said big bad wolf. I'm sorry, that was a joke when I said derogative towards wolf. I obviously meant towards man. Is if you know Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf is the representation of a man. He's not a wolf, it's a man. So I was playing a pun on that. I wasn't saying that men are the big bad men. The story of the big bad wolf is a metaphor for Little Red Riding Hood is being raped by it's a metaphor for young women. It was told long ago when you couldn't say things so honestly as you can nowadays. So they made the man a wolf, and they made Little Red Riding Hood red, pubescent. They didn't say pubescent young woman, they said Red Riding Hood. But yeah, we are designed to have fear. The more that you can accept that you have traumatic memories and that you're going to have traumatic memories and that you allow it in, the freer you'll become on the human level. The more relaxed you are. The more you fight it, the more you're engaged in seeking and trying to be something that you're not. If you're a fearful person, you've got to be a fearful person. And there's always a position for you as a fearful person. Like, we have all roles in this society. And the same in the dog pack. Like, a fearful dog is really helpful in a dog pack because it alerts all the dogs to danger. It's always on the alert for danger. I have techniques as well if the trauma is so bad that you're getting stuck in it for eons and eons. And the technique is that wherever you're afraid of, you get to the deepest thought in the feeling. So you establish where the feeling is. So if it's fear, maybe it's in the lower stomach, and you really feel it, and then you establish what thoughts are there. I'm going to be killed. I don't like this. I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to be left alone. I'm going to be in pain. I'm going to die. Whatever thoughts are there, establish that. And then once you've got that and you've really let it overtake you, so you've really allowed it and really have it overtake, you then ask it what it wants. And then it wants to feel safe and it wants to feel love, and try to engage in those positive thoughts as well. And this can help relax that trauma a lot as well. That's if it's really bad. If it's like you see something you're afraid of and fear comes for 10 minutes, then just allow it. But if it's something that you're getting stuck in for days and days and days, then you can try that technique, or you could find a therapist that works on trauma release. Thank you very much, Christopher, for your question. Hi, Fatimir. Great to see you live again. I missed you, or better to say, we all missed you. Ah, nice. I was speaking the whole time, so to me, it doesn't feel any different if I do a live talk or online talk. There is a bit of difference, but I was talking more than I normally talk, so to me, it's like I'm still doing it. So it doesn't feel like I'm not doing it. Like, I've done a lot of talking about non-duality in the last 3 weeks. A lot. Whoa, I feel really relaxed already by saying that. Thank you. And nice, Marcus. Wow, that's all the questions done already. If anyone wants to call in, this is the time. Just call away. Hello, just 1 second, just let me put my earphones in.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey! Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, nice to speak to you. Hello?
Hi. Okay, so my question is about that I suffered from trauma for a while, and it still affects me to this day.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing that pops into my head, and when I go to sleep at night, it's the last thing I think of, and I just can't stop myself from. So if I watched you talk about trauma and all the possible techniques that exist in order to sort of deal with them, but it's just like, it's easy to say, but when I have to do it, when I have to stay there with the feeling, with the memories, it just hurts. It just hurts so much. Like,
Yeah.
I can barely, I don't know, I can barely breathe. Like, I feel it in my stomach, I feel it everywhere in my body, and the first thing that I want to do is just get rid of it. Like,
Yeah.
get rid of that. Look for the next distraction. Look for the next thing to fill this need to think about something. And I would call my mom or call someone, or just engage in something that would be kind of distracting. And I just don't want to live like that anymore. Like, I don't want to spend my life running away from what I am, and I'm kind of desperate.
Yeah.
I'm kind of desperate. I don't know. I don't know.
And have you ever worked with a professional with it, with somebody that specializes in post-traumatic stress disorder?
No, actually, I haven't. Well, I live in France, and here you have to pay for a therapist. It's not covered. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
can see a psychiatrist, but if I want to see a therapist, I have to pay in right now I don't have the means to do that, and I just feel like spirituality has been an important part of my life, and
Are you
I kind of want
sure?
to.
Are you sure that the your psychiatrist can't refer you to a to somebody? They won't refer you.
Yeah, well, actually, I see a psychiatrist back home, and because I'm not originally from France, and he gave me a prescription, and then he told me to see a psychiatrist here, and I'm working on that right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm stuck, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's not my expertise,
Mm-hmm.
post-traumatic stress disorder. I think if you're remembering it when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night, then it's pretty severe.
Yeah,
And um, and what physically effect does it have on you?
I feel like it's gonna happen again,
Yeah.
and I can feel that fear that I felt initially.
Yeah.
All of what happens, all of what happened happens again in my head. It's like I relive everything in my head, and I
Yeah.
start to analyze it, and I start to think about it, and I start to think about what if I had done this
Yeah.
instead of doing
Yeah.
this, what if I had done these things
Yeah.
differently, and I start to blame myself, and I
Yeah.
start to just like spiral in this I get stuck in this spiral of
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's really painful, and
Yeah. And
I've tried
the
to.
problem is with when you've got, if you, I mean, I can't diagnose you. I can't say that you've got post-traumatic stress disorder, but just it sounds like it. So if we just name it that, and then
Mm,
I'm not sure if it is that or not. But when you have that, if you do techniques like putting your attention into the feeling, then it can re-traumatize you again. So I
yes,
would be careful
yes,
of doing that. Because if
yes,
you haven't got someone that you're working with, then you can get stuck there.
yeah, that's
So
what I.
I wouldn't recommend that if
Mhm.
if it's this severe. I wouldn't recommend putting your attention in the feeling. I would
Okay.
recommend more, but I'm not an expert, and I really, if you could go and see someone that is an expert in post-traumatic stress. And the thing is therapists are, it'd be great if you could get a therapist that you could pay for, a really great therapist, because it's,
Mhm.
it's not that all therapists are, it's very individual, like whether you get on with the therapist and whether they're trained in the right areas to help you. And so sometimes getting what the doctor gives you or what you're allocated isn't the best thing. And there's many great therapists out there that can help you with this, and I really reckon it can improve. I would recommend that more, if it's this bad, the trauma, more what you need to do is reprogramming to move your attention away from it and programming it with more with positivity. But this is like a really detailed thing to do, and I think you really need somebody that guides you through it. If not, if you really can't afford it, then researching it on the internet, of
Yeah.
of you, and the techniques that I'm recommending. There's so many different techniques out there, but the techniques that I would recommend is more when the trauma comes up, you've got a technique and a strategy to not go back into that trauma. So it's not about denying it, like you acknowledge it and you acknowledge what's happening, but you use a technique to recondition your mind, some form of positivity around it,
Yeah.
and pulling yourself out of it. Because if you keep getting sucked into it, then you're creating the chemicals of that trauma again and again and again, which is really intense on the body, and it can disbalance all of your body as well.
Yeah.
I don't really have any names of what to look up, because when I did all of this, like I took a bit from here and a bit from there. Like I went to many different teachers and I looked up and went to many different therapies, and I sort of found my own way from all these different therapies and developed my own unique way to deal with all these things. But I know from my own experience of, I think I never was diagnosed with it, but I think I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think sometimes it still appears, but it's very, very minor. And it appears particularly when I'm out in the forest and I come across a man in the forest, and I have a particular way in which I deal with it. It doesn't ever suck me into darkness or elongated thoughts. Now I have a particular body reaction. Sometimes my body can be shocked and start shaking, and I focus on strength and my well-being now, and that's all I do, and it quickly rebalances. So the person passes and it rebalances. And I also have tools like to help me deal with that as well. And so with that, when I was younger, with that particular trauma, if I could get stuck in that feeling, and that feeling could come up, something could happen, I could see something, or something could come up, and my body would just go like a tidal wave into that feeling, and I couldn't get my mind off it. And so I developed techniques to feel the feeling, to recognize what was happening, and then move into a positive place, like not allow myself to get dragged under with it, because after a few like 10-15 minutes of it, it was like I got dragged into it, like really heavily. But that's my own experience, and I can't say it's the same for you, but I did this through lots of different different therapies and different techniques over the years, and now I think that it's like I've got to a place where I'm really good, and I really have lots of positive thoughts. Like I go for walks often in the forest alone. Like I live in the middle of France, and it's forest all the way around, so like it doesn't stop me from doing anything. And I have my techniques which help me if I am in the middle of the forest and come across groups. Like one time I came across a group of well, this has happened quite a few times actually, a group of hunters with guns, which is something that could trigger me as well. But but I feel like I got to a good place with it. Another thing you could do is just research it as much as you can. If you can't afford therapy, like just keep looking up on the internet, watching videos, different people's experiences, so it can help you devise your strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be amazing if our government, like I think that France is quite good. Do you have healthcare in France?
Yes, I do actually. The psychiatrist is actually covered, so I can go see a psychiatrist. And I actually went to see the doctor from work, from where I work, and he helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think if you've got extra insurance in France, then you get, I think, like 30 a year or something. No, not 30. You get a certain amount, but I don't know if you've got the extra insurance, not just
I just have the basic one.
The basic one, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing you could do, is look at taking the extra insurance, which isn't that experienced, and I think it gives you a certain amount per year. I'm a French resident too, so I'm learning all these things as well. I know that they give you, if you take the extra insurance, you get a certain amount of acupuncture sessions a year as well. So I was thinking of taking it just to get that. I like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look up
and just really go for it. What I did was I went for it, like I used to go for acupuncture, massage. Like I just really went for it. I just totally got it in my brain that this wasn't going to take me down, and that I was, that there was something out there for me, and I just had this drive. Maybe it's my mind, like I get fixated on things, And I just really researched it in every way. And when you're seeking for an answer for something, you get the imagination that you want one person or one thing to give you a very specific path to get you out of something. And from my experience is that you build on everything. It's not, you want one quick answer or you want one answer, do this and that's the end of it. From my experiences, it's something you build on, like you build more information, more wisdom, more understanding, and it goes on through a period of time. And then after you look back after 5 years, you realize like there's been a huge change in your way of being. Like it's not, and sometimes when you're traumatized, you have this attitude where you feel powerless to it. So you kind of feel like, well, if this doesn't work, I'm going to give up, or there's nothing there for me, and you let it take you down. Whereas it's something you keep building on, like, and more wisdom comes, and more freedom will come. And it's like that kind of attitude, like where you keep being open to new things and listen to what people say and give everything a try. Like I tried all types of things.
Yeah, just be open.
Yeah. And I will get better. Like I feel like in my 20s, my early 20s, you sound like you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I am in my 20s, yeah.
So when I felt like if I didn't heal myself, I wasn't going to make this life. Like like it's now, I'm now towards the end of my 30s, but it really transformed. Like it's a fantastic life, whereas I couldn't say that in my early 20s. It was quite hellish for me. So really hold that in your heart. Like there is this change that can happen, and this trauma is going to spur you for great things. You know, other people, they don't have that, and they just do what society or life tells them to do, and they do the regular thing, and then they never explore this subject and they never explore something bigger. So it's almost like your trauma acts as a catalyst to ask questions and to explore something more.
Yeah, just to find out more, and it's like it's easy, like when you talk about it and you say, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's easy to talk about, but then when you really have to do it, then you're faced with like and I have used spirituality to sort of liberate myself, quote unquote, from what I feel, and I almost have these glimpses where I feel like I know something. And then it became sort of a drug, and I started just wanting to read more about these spiritual teachers so they can tell me more, and just so I can get away from whatever it is that I'm feeling. And I actually asked you about that once. I sent you a message and I was like, I just want to feel peace and happiness, and I use spirituality to do that. And
on the human level, spirituality can bring more peace and happiness, but that's not the goal of spirituality, or it's not the goal of non-duality. And this is all part of the journey. You know, life didn't create life in order to not have a journey. This is all part of the exciting journey that you have ahead of you in your story. Like you learn all these things, and then it becomes a drug, and then you fall down, and then you have to pick yourself up again, and you change, and then you find out other stuff. It really is, when you look back in your 80s, you'll think, wow, what a journey this was. Like it's so detailed. There is so much happening, and this is part of the apparent process, is that you learn all these things, then you tumble, then you learn, then you realize that you actually have to do the practices, then you do the practices and you learn, and all the time, as long as your heart is open to growing, you will. As long as you're like, there's a part of you that really is open to something bigger, then that will present itself. In a way, it presents itself to everything, but But in the human world, it seems that you can either become more and more contracted through life or more and more expansive and bigger and open.
Yeah. And I'm trying to not define myself by what happened to me.
Yeah,
Like, I'm trying to, okay, so I read these things like I am that, and I am, I am beyond words, and I am the universe, and I am undescribable, and I am the nature of who I am cannot be contained in words and in judgments and in interpretations. And I try to actually know it for real and not just read it
yeah,
and know it from an intellectual level. And then I'm met with these traumas, with these memories of
yeah.
these traumas, and I totally forget about all of these things, and I start to define myself as the person who had this event happen to her, or who did this mistake, or who made, it's
It's
hard
Maya.
to not
It's
get
Maya.
stuck.
Yeah, this is Maya. This is your particular challenge. Yeah. It's not. It's easy and it's not, this journey, and this is your particular dance.
Yeah.
That this comes up, that there is an opening to something beyond you, and then the mind comes in really strongly with the trauma. And the best thing you can do on the trauma level is working out techniques not to collapse into it. And then eventually, when you've worked out those techniques not to collapse into it, then you begin to say or see that that's not you, that's not you. But at the moment, you're collapsing into it. So you've got to find those techniques that stops you falling into it. And then because when the emotion is too strong, then you fall into it. And once that's stopped, then you see, that's not me. This isn't me, and that's not me. That doesn't define me.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, seeing that there is nobody finding out these techniques. It's like one movement of life. It is love. Like, you never have found me on the internet. You never did any of it. It's one life acting. It's action coming from everything that's ever happened.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful, but sometimes it's painful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and calling in and being open to speak about this. It's really helpful for other people. Like, it's really for yourself and for other people as well. Like, I'm sure there's people that have this question but too shy to say it.
Yeah, I sure hope it helped someone out there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
With pleasure.
This was a pleasure.
Yeah, I send you so much love, and I wish you everything, and it will come. It will.
Yeah, I hope so.
Lots of love, sweetie. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh. Hey, Isabel. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Lisa. I got a little ooh too, but not found my ee yet. I got a little ooh. I got a little e. Guess I'm quite enlightened. Anyway, it's really seen that there is no purpose to any of this. It seems it is all just so impersonal, just happening for no reason. Then thoughts get involved and sprout off a load of crap that often has sod all to do with any of what is actually going on in direct experience. The me in thought is nothing but a load of more thoughts and conditioning that becomes like the anxious energy that's always pulling to search for something, to get somewhere, to achieve something, restlessly and continuously seeking, just a restless energy. But it was seen that everything is already found, everything is here, there is nothing to find. It's all just shadows cast by the sun. My mind was like, WTF. I don't know if I have a question other than to say I feel really weird at the moment. I can't take anything seriously. Is that normal? I've probably made no sense at all. Probably need another session with you. Hope you're well. Thanks, hugs. No, I think that's totally normal, that everything becomes very humorous, because it is very humorous when it's not seen through the lens of, I know this is right or this is wrong. Also, for the speaker with PTSD, she could look into EMDR. Lots on the internet, and it can be very helpful for this. Ah, nice. Thanks, Tanya. Thank you, Lisa, for my teaching certificate. This is Chris who said about the electricity of them. You made me laugh. I have way too many thoughts and ideas, but at the same time, I feel like some things are changing there, and I'd like to talk to someone, but there are too many words to express what's going on in a text message. I'll have to figure out how to Skype phone thing works, or maybe schedule a session with a Lisa session. Welcome home. Thanks, Chris. I like doing that. Look at them. So everything becomes like play. You play a bit of this, you play a bit of that. Like a kid. Everything is play. You know, when you're a kid and you used to play, I was really lucky. Both my parents had businesses of their own. And in our garage, we used to have these checkbook things, which we don't really use checks in England, but in France, it's like checks. It's for everything. They're like check, check, check. I don't know why. That seems really backwards, checks. And France seems very progressive. But, you know, they have checks. I also quite like it, actually, because it's quite simple. But it seems like a really unsafe way to do things. It's much easier to do it digitally, I'd have thought. But anyway, besides the point. So when I was a kid, we used to have, remember the old checking things? Like, and I used to set up my shop, and like I'd sit there and I'd have my play money and my little till, and then the check thing, and I'd be like, beep, 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 tick, tick, tick. And I couldn't write or read because of my dyslexia till I was a lot older, so I'd just write like garbage, like beep, beep, beep. And I loved it. It was the best game, and I did it for hours and hours and hours. And then it's really funny, because then when you become an adult and you actually have to work in a shop and do all these things, you suddenly see it as work that you have to do, and you have all types of relationship and story to it, and you lose the wonder. But even if you work like in a card shop or a shop, it's play. Nothing serious. Like, it's play. It's so cute. Like, all of it is so cute. Like there's things that I don't like doing, that's part of being human, but it's not that I try to look at it like play, but when you really rest into it, it becomes wondrous, all of it. I don't really like picking up Khaleesi's poo, and she likes to poo outside of the garden. Normally, we're just about to get home and she poos in the neighbour's garden, because they have a dog, so it's like a territory thing. Same here. I'm not sure what you're the same about, but same here, Lisa. Hello, beautiful warrior queen. I love you. Hey, Ramona. Ramona all the way. Oh, hey, Ramona. Ramona, can I share your song? I didn't get a chance to ask you. I thought it was so beautiful, and I could play it, but will I get done for copyright if I play it on my YouTube, if you copyrighted it? Thank you so much, Lisa. This was amazing. With pleasure, Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure how you say your name. Zimb. Thanks, Tanya. Nice to hear from you. Catherine. Hey, Catherine. How can I do anti-fear techniques when I'm with people? This is the only time I get full-blown terror panic attacks. I know you might say it's got to do with being judged, true, but it's hard to not care about being judged when I'm filled with adrenaline, trembling, overheating, with an immense urge to run, being exactly like that in front of everyone I'm with. When I know people do judge people like that, it also makes them feel uncomfortable if I say I'm having a panic attack, ignore me. When the adrenaline makes me lose any concentration, so there's bodily awkwardness, silence. Then therapy 2 or 3 different times over the years didn't work for me. I guess I'm really asking how I could do your technique when I'm in company. I've been having them for 38 years. It's okay, Lisa, you've answered a lot about fear now. Yeah, that is, I mean, I'm not an expert on these things, but I do think I'm super wise as well, because I've studied these things for so many years. I can point to things. I think if it's been happening for 38 years, Catherine, your body's got a very automatic response to it. So I would look for a bodily healing technique. And I think the most important thing is that you've got to be really committed to it, Catherine. Are you really committed to changing that? Or do you see it as something that makes you powerless and that you can't change, and why does it happen to you? Like, do you allow it to take you into victimhood, or do you really feel that empowerment that you really want to change and that you really can change? Because I think that's the most important part, first of all, is that energetically there is a feeling of wanting to change that. And not like a victim, powerless feeling towards it. Hi Lisa, EFT or tapping is very easy and free therapeutic technique for many, many issues. Emotional freedom technique, as the caller with PTSD has less money, EFT might work for her. I teach it to my private students to deal with stress. Here in Belgium, social insurance pays for training in hypnosis at hospitals taught by anesthesists. As a fellow seeker told me early on, the cream always rises to the top. Yeah. Oh, I don't need these in anymore. That's nice. Ramona, could you please send me the iTunes link for the song you want me, not you want me, I want to play of yours, the one that I listened to today. I just looked it up in iTunes and I can't find it. That's the easiest way for me to share it over YouTube. I could do it in YouTube too, actually. Actually, I'll do it in YouTube. I got a little. So if you've got any questions, you can send questions. There is no questions left at the moment. And I have a song I'm going to play of somebody that was on my retreat last week, and she's a really beautiful and brilliant artist. And hopefully this is not going to get my video blocked. She says it's not. So okay, so here is Ramona's song. I'm excited, and please purchase her album on iTunes or like it on YouTube, and go out of your way to do that, because she's really into non-duality, and she writes her own songs and she produces them. So if you want the non-dual message out there, we've got to support our own. You gotta support your own. So it's called Ramona by Fool by Ramona, and you can subscribe to her channel, Ramona. Okay, sorry about the glitching. That's not Ramona. That's to do with my computer being overloaded.
I remember the time I fell in love
Oh,
with you.
sorry.
I remember the time I fell in love with you. I got scared and ran off like I always do.
Sorry, all that sound problem was me, not Ramona, at the beginning.
I'm such a fool. There I was, standing on the other side of your house, feeling sorry for what I've done. Thinking, how can I ever love if I always close the door?
See, isn't that beautiful? Good job, Ramona. I apologize about all the sound and glitching. That was me not being prepared. I should have prepared that earlier and doing it spontaneously. I didn't get all my settings right. But Ramona's video and her sound is beautiful. So please find that on Spotify, on YouTube, and like it and share it because she's so talented. Thanks, Ramona, for sharing yourself. Okay, well, I don't think there's any questions left, so I think that's all for today. Thanks, I'll look up body healing, and thanks to whoever suggested EFT for me. What a beautiful piece of music. Yes, it is. Okay, guys, thank you so much. It's so nice to do a live stream again. I really enjoy talking to my computer and being a banana. And I even dressed in banana colors today. I dressed in yellow, so you can all establish that I'm a banana. And what I mean by banana is that one of those things that are like this, you know, and they grow on a tree. Apparently 94% of our DNA is from bananas. You know, we're all from bananas. Okay, love you lots. Bye, guys.